Welcome to Property Mama Adventures in Real Estate, episode 32. It's here each week we share all of the shenanigans that go on in the real estate industry. We're talking real estate agents, buyers, selling, all the people involved with buying and selling houses. If we've not met before, my name is Wendy Chamberlain and I'm a buyer's advocate, a buyer's agent here in Melbourne, Australia. So I wanted to share with you some funny stories that we have heard that have happened when it comes to doing final inspections and settlements of properties. So you've heard me, if you've been watching our socials, you would have seen me talk about when we go out to do final inspections and why final inspections are so important. So around about 7 days or so before a property is due to settle, we organise to do what is called the final walkthrough or that final inspection. And what you're looking for is you're looking for things to be as they were when you purchased the property. So when you signed the contract of sale for you to now becoming the incoming purchaser of that home, there is an expectation under the law that what you have purchased, what you've signed as the condition was at that point in time is what you're buying. And so the final inspection is the chance that you have to then make sure that everything as it was when you inspected it. So what funny things have we seen that have gone on? Well, let's start with the long settlement we've been talking about over a number of episodes. We actually had the final inspection happen last week. And the settlement of the property happened on Monday. Finally, the property has settled, but it wasn't without shenanigans. Who would have thought? What a shock, hey? After all of this time. So we organised the final inspection with the real estate agent that we had been dealing with the whole way. If you've listened to the previous episodes, you know that that was an adventure in itself, dealing with that real estate agent. And he did not disappoint. So we wanted to organise a time that was going to suit our clients. So our clients have been living interstate. They are moving to Melbourne to move into this home. And so the time of the inspection needed to be coordinated with the time when they were going to actually be available. And so we made it for the Monday and we were looking for earlier in the day. Well, that wasn't suitable to this real estate agent. He wanted to have it later in the day. So he contacted our client and wanted it for 4 o'clock. And that was too late for our client. And so there was a bit of a back and forth that happened, and it was agreed that the final inspection was going to be at 1 o'clock on the Monday. All fine. Why there was such a song and dance about it, I don't know, but that's what was agreed to. And so final inspection time rolls around. We get notification that the agent's not even going to be there. He's sending his off-sider. So just to finish things off, just a little bit more of extra sprinkle of that real estate agent involved there. Never even showed up. So the time of the inspection happened and we went along with our clients, and the other real estate agent met us there, and we spent quite a bit of time going through this property because it's a large home and there was quite a bit of things to document. So if you'll remember, I had been through the property and taken photos shortly after we had signed the contract because the real estate agent had said the vendor wasn't going to rent it out. They ended up renting it out. And so it was my only opportunity to get in there, take photos so that we could prove fair wear and tear, which is just as well because there were a few things in the property that needed attention. So one of the things, look, not major, but it was something, well, you go, okay, that wasn't in that state when we purchased the property, so we'd like you to rectify that. So there, over one of the fireplaces, there was a huge mirror. And when they'd taken it off the wall, they had basically just ripped it off the wall, and there were holes in the wall where it used to hang. And so we took photos of that and said, look, this wasn't in the state that it was. There's big holes in the wall. Would your vendor be prepared to fix that up? And they did agree to do that. So you need to ask for these things because you just don't know whether or not they're going to say yes or no. You've already got the no if you don't ask. And so they did agree to that. But the major thing that was the problem that we wanted to get fixed up was, so in the entirety of that time, as I said, the property was in a certain condition when we purchased it, and then they decided to rent it out. So they rented it out for 6 months. So another group of people moved into the property, I believe, whilst they were renovating their own home, and they were living in the home. I don't know what parts of the home they were occupying, but it would appear that they did not go out onto the balcony where there was known to be pigeons roosting up in the, there's a big turret with this property. And the pigeons were up. You had this huge ladder, and then they were going up into the loft of this property. So when we inspected the property, when it was for sale, perfectly clean. Obviously, it's all pristine. It's all presented for sale, as you would expect on a property that's being sold. Well, whoever lived there didn't bother cleaning any of it. And so they had since vacated the property. The real estate agent had done their exit report. They'd been through the home and just noted everything of how it was. When the renter moved in, they did a condition report and noted the things when the renter moved out. Well, we roll up, doing our final inspection, go and have a look there, and I kid you not, there is at least an inch deep of pigeon poo, all of these droppings, like honestly, so that you've got 6 months, even more than that. It would have been, by this point, it would have been 8-9 months worth of pigeon poo has piled up in this area where, I mean, blatantly obvious, and it's all down the walls as well. It was just absolutely putrid. And they'd not bothered to clean that. And we said, well, that's not, here's the photos. Here's the photos. I'll find the photos and I'll show you the photos. That's not how the property was when we purchased it. So when the real estate agent was there, we pointed that out to them. We took photos. They took photos. Now, everything from an inspection that you would like to flag to be addressed by the seller, by the vendor, needs to go through the legal representation. So our solicitor needs to formally list all these things and send them through to the vendor's solicitor. And those two parties have their conversations, and they're obviously relaying information to their client, to our client. This is going back and forth. Now, it came back, the vendor said that's fair wear and tear. And we pushed back and said, well, no, have a look at the photos again. There is, like, it was putrid all down the wall. It was just, no. You have a look and you will see that this is not fair wear and tear. So the photos were provided to, so obviously it was just dismissed off the cuff, but we had photos. So the photos were provided to the vendor. They came back pretty much hat in hand saying, we are so sorry. We did not know the state and condition of the property. Now, remember, this vendor has moved into state, so they're not living in their home either. They are relying on the sales real estate agent to be relaying the information to them and providing their home in a fit state. So the real estate agent has been the managing agent for the renter. So this renter has lived there. Clearly, they didn't go out onto the balcony or see any of this or even care about any of this, because there was also a plant there that was alive, but now 6-8 months later is very, very dead. They didn't look there, didn't care. And so when the final inspection was done for the condition report for the exiting of the renter, they also obviously didn't look there and go out there. And it was only when we flagged it to them. And this is the representation that this vendor is relying on from this real estate agent that was conducting their sale, also now managing the tenant, that they were telling them what was going on. Clearly they weren't. Because as soon as they were shown the photos, they were hugely apologetic. And they said, I'm so sorry, we didn't know it was in that condition. And they arranged for it to be cleaned. And it cost them over $500 to have a cleaner go and remove all of the bird droppings, all the pigeon poo, which got totally cleaned up. It looks really good now. It looks like it did when the property was purchased. But it just goes to show why it is important to do final inspections on things so that that cost is not something that you are up for. There were some other items that were identified at the final inspection. There was some rubbish that was left under the stairs. We asked for that to be removed. And there was an old washing machine that was not required or wanted by our clients. So we also asked for that to be removed. So all up, the vendor paid to remove these items and do that cleaning. They paid over $1,000. So think about that. You're buying a property, and if anything is left behind that shouldn't be there and you don't want, you are on the hook to be paying to get that removed. So this is why I say final inspections are so very important. And also make sure you give yourself a little bit of time. If you're settling on the Friday, which I suggest you don't settle Fridays, because if something goes sideways, you're waiting until Monday. And if you've organised your moving truck and you're there on the Friday, on the day of settlement, to move all your goodies in, settlement gets delayed, and it gets delayed to such a point that it doesn't happen for 3 days, because things don't happen on a weekend. If it's Friday, you're waiting till Monday. What are you going to do with all your goodies? What are you going to do with the truck? Where are you actually going to sleep and live for that weekend? Because your home's not available. So we always suggest that you do other days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Avoid Fridays for that very, very reason. So the settlement went ahead, and that was fine. So all things went very well there. But it is important that you do your settlement well ahead of the, do your final inspection well ahead of the settlement date. We like to do, as I said, at least a week out, so that if anything does come up, you have time to address it, and all parties have the time. So remember, you've got you as the purchaser speaking to your solicitor, who then goes and talks to the vendor solicitor, who then goes and talks to them. Now, if they're interstate, overseas, busy, whatever the reasons are, you have to allow time for these things to go back and forth. It's just a word to the wise. Be kind to yourself and allow yourself a little bit of extra time to get the final inspection done ahead of time. So, what other funny things have I heard about when it comes to final inspections being done? Well, probably not so much funny as a bit really is, and on the topic of poo, I heard about a property where it was an investment property and it was tenanted, and they sold the property. And so when the final inspection was done, clearly the tenant was not happy about the fact that the property was being sold. And so they decided to leave little deposits in every single room. So can you just imagine you roll up for your final inspection, and there's little presents, human presents, has been left for you by the renter and the tenant before they left. They just apparently the house wasn't very big, so I thought, wouldn't that be a bit of an effort to do that? But clearly not. It's pretty vile, really, isn't it, that humans decide to do that kind of thing? But I guess they're annoyed. I remember hearing a story from someone that I know really, really well, where they were looking for a property and they were inspecting properties. Maybe this whole episode's going to be about different types of poop that we find at final inspections. This particular property, again, where you get disgruntled people do human things, I suppose. And this was a property that was being put on the market for sale. I actually think it was a divorce that was going through. And as no doubt we are aware, divorces can, people's colours aren't always shining brightly when it comes to dealing with the emotions and all of the shenanigans that goes on with a divorce. And so the property was being sold. It was obviously the matrimonial home, and perhaps one party wanted to sell it, the other didn't. But when it was opened up for the final inspection, somebody, one of the parties, I can't remember if it was a husband or wife, but it doesn't really matter, they had chosen to wipe feces on all of the skirting boards through the entire house, and then leave little deposits in all the toilets without flushing them as well. What is it with humans that you do that kind of, I've got to say, you do that kind of shit, because literally they have. It's interesting, isn't it, what people get up to, what goes through their mind. They think that kind of thing is, I don't know, funny, appropriate, revenge, don't know. So, yes, that's what sometimes you end up dealing with in the real estate industry. All kinds of things. I've heard stories where they're trying to do they've gone past the final inspection, and it's the day of the settlement. And I don't know, maybe it was their first sale, but the vendor didn't understand that the day of settlement is where there's the exchange and you no longer own the property. And they, on the day where the settlement, so the settlement had gone through, so it had exchanged, and the old owners no longer owned the property and the new owners did own the property. So certainly here it's all done electronically and it runs through a system. It takes around 30, 45 minutes. It'll kick off at whatever time. Let's say it's at 12 o'clock, 12 noon. And then about half an hour, 45 minutes later, you'll get notified that the settlement has gone through and you're now the new proud owner of the property, and you can go and collect the keys from the real estate agent. So these people did. They went and that all went through. They collected the keys from the real estate agent with their moving truck on the day of settlement, went to the property, and lo and behold, the vendors, people have just sold their house, are in there in the house, and they are still packing up boxes. They didn't realise that you can't move on your day of settlement. You actually have to get out of your house at least a day before. So there's that as well, which obviously miscommunication, or they didn't ask, or they just thought they could take their time packing things up. So really, really interesting things. Another scenario that I heard about was where a property was sold. It was going through the settlement period and the owners had moved out. So that's all good. We've got the owners out of the property. We're tracking well. And there was a garage. So the house was locked up, but there was a garage. And so through the process of the settlement period, somebody had decided the garage was left unlocked. And someone had decided that they were going to move into the garage because that was a nice home that they could just live in there because the house was vacant. I'm not sure for how long the house had been vacant, but they'd obviously seen that the garage, or tested that the garage wasn't locked anymore, and they decided to move in. And so they'd moved in, including with their marijuana plant and all of their belongings. They had just moved into the garage of a property of which they did not own. They weren't renting. They just decided to set up shop there. So it became, the real estate agents became aware that someone was living in the garage, which they shouldn't do. Obviously, the settlement was pending, and so the belongings were removed from the garage. The person wasn't there when this was taking place, and someone went in and removed all the belongings and disposed of them. Well, the person has come back. The person who's living in the garage has come back to find that all of their belongings, including their marijuana plant, have been disposed of. They weren't happy, as you can appreciate, and then they proceeded to smash all the stained glass windows of the house. So again, you go, what happens with people? It wasn't your house. You weren't the seller or the buyer of the home. You just decided to move in there, and then you're just going to go damage someone else's property because you got annoyed. So whether or not things should have been disposed of is another question. Perhaps they should have waited for the person to go and say you can't be here, etc. It perhaps could have been handled better. But that's no reason to go through and smash all inside the properties. Which, on that note, reminds me of another story that I've been told from somebody that I know, where they had a beautiful period home that had amazing doors and windows and fireplaces. It was one of those old, gorgeous period homes with all the period detail in it. And an offer had been made on the property it was going to auction. It was part of a deceased estate, and it was going to auction. And one of the buyers was very, very interested in buying the property. And they'd made an offer on the property, and the offer was knocked back because there was multiple parties and there was quite some interest in the home. And the decision was made amongst the family that they still wanted to present the property to auction and send it to auction and see what happened. Well, the day before the auction, somebody, so it would have been the Friday or Thursday or the Friday before the auction, somebody broke into the home and took with them a sledgehammer. And they smashed every single part of that home. They smashed all the fireplaces, they smashed all the windows, they smashed all the doors the day before the auction. So can you imagine how you would be? This is your family home that your parents have passed away, and someone has gone into this home, this gorgeous, beautiful home with all these period features, and just smashed the bejesus out of it all. That's what happened. They suspect, they knew who it was, and they suspect that it was done by that person so that the auction would flop and that they wouldn't get the result that they wanted, and that this person could buy the property. So they made a decision that they were going to run the auction, which they did, and the property sold really well. It actually sold under the hammer. They got a really good price for it, and it wasn't bought by the person they suspected did this damage to the property. So I don't know what gets into humans, that they do all kinds of things to properties for whatever their motives are. Who knows what goes on? But these are just some of the things that I've seen or heard about when it comes to doing final inspections and having homes ready for settlement. So we're dealing with a lot of emotion, and obviously that's played into what's gone on here. Not with the pigeons. The pigeons just had a home and they'd been living there for ages, and they were just doing their thing. But the other things is very, very interesting. So what I wanted to share with anybody listening to the Property Mama Adventures in Real Estate podcast, if you're looking to get started and just not sure of the steps that you need to take where it comes to buying real estate, because there are many, many moving parts, and it's not just about knowing which parts there are. It also is important for you to understand the order in which those parts need to be enacted and set into motion. There's also many team members in your property arsenal for you to be utilising the services of. So I talk about solicitors is one that's very, very important. So what if you didn't know what you were doing, but you really wanted to educate yourself at your own pace, in your own pockets of time? Well, what I've done, I've been buying and selling real estate for over 28 years. I've done a massive brain dump of all that I've learned across almost 3 decades, and I've gathered that all up for you into my program, which is called Get Started in Property. So if you go to getstartedinproperty.com.au, you will be able to have a look at how you can educate yourself at your own pace so that you can buy real estate. You will gain the confidence that you need to be able to make offers, talk to real estate agents, who you need to have there to do inspections, and each of the moving parts that are involved with real estate. That is what the program is designed to do. It is designed to support you to buy a property. So if that's you and you'd love to get started in real estate, please head to the website and you can find out more details there. So once again, thank you for listening to episode 32 of Property Mama Adventures in Real Estate. I've had fun sharing some bits and pieces today. If you're enjoying the podcast and listening in, please do share it with friends, family and colleagues who might also love a bit of a laugh and hear about the shenanigans in real estate. And also on whatever your favorite streaming platform is, please give us a review, give us a like, whatever is there for you to show that you're loving the podcast and sharing with other people. Once again, I do thank you for joining me and wishing you having a great day. Bye-bye for now.